Hello, my name is Father Tighe, and we now go into the fourth segment of our journey of faith in the light of the cross. The disciples have seen Mary go to the cross and the beloved disciple with her, and they see this new family being created or brought to life by Jesus' death and resurrection, and they see the sense of accomplishment Jesus has. Instead of feeling that his life has been wasted and fallen apart, he has this sense of completeness. He has completed his life. He has completed his mission and purpose. And we talked about how the soldiers used to pray to Mary, will I have the courage and the confidence? Will God give me the grace to complete my mission, my purpose? And if I die, will I know I completed my mission? We as Christians are more concerned with completing our mission than seeking happiness. In fact, the only happiness human beings can experience is when I have completed my mission and purpose. Why did God put me here on earth? And the disciples now are in the upper room. And Jesus has sent them forth, but they haven't gone forth. They're still in the upper room, and they recall how Mary went to the cross and had the courage and confidence, and how the beloved disciple went, and all of them have to go. But they also have to understand, how do I see my way clearly? How do I focus so I don't get dragged down by the darkness which made us be ashamed of Jesus? We couldn't see where Jesus was going. We couldn't see what he could see. And what was the reason why we can't see what he saw? And they recalled the words that we just saw at the end of Mary. We go to John 19:28, and we continue in this fourth segment what we were just completing in the third segment. Aware that all was finished to fulfill Scripture, aware that all was complete, Jesus said, I thirst. I thirst is another word for what I long for. What do I long for? And we'll see later in John's Gospel, what's the fountain of life that comes in and satisfies the thirst inside me? What do I do with my life that makes me feel that I have satisfied the thirsting, the longing inside me to complete my life? And we see here a strange thing happen. They put a sponge soaked in sour wine on a hyssop sprig to his mouth. Now, the actual word for sour wine, which we have underlined here, is vinegar, sour wine. But sour is the better word because we'll see later in John's Gospel, they talk about the fountain of life that wells up inside us, but how that fountain of life can be twisted and cause us a sour and bitterness in our chest. And if it goes up into our throat, it doesn't satiate our thirst, what Jesus is longing for. It makes us choke and gag. And if we can't deal with it, it goes up into our brain and it becomes toxic poison. We go brain dead and we can't see straight. We can't make good decisions. We get feelings of desperate, and we usually, in our decisions, make things worse. Well, Jesus took this vinegar and he drank it, and the disciples saw it as a metaphor. You know what a metaphor? A symbol for his whole life, a sacrament for his whole life. Because Jesus, from the beginning, came along and he went beyond the limits and boundaries of the Mosaic law to proclaim the gospel of limitless life and boundless love. And as he proclaimed limitless life and boundless love, many people got upset with him. Many people started to divert his attention to other things. Many people tried to make him sour and bitter. And Jesus always was able to pray his way through it. Jesus was always able to pray and detox the sourness and bitterness inside him before it went up into his throat and became toxic in his head. And the disciples said, we can't do that. How do we do that? And they realized that that's what Jesus wanted them to do and what Mary was leading them to do, to go to the cross, and give their fears to God, and give the things that make them sour and bitter, the things that break them down and corrupt them. They are so afraid of being corrupted and broken down and wearied by the world that they'll give in. And then we think of what enables the world to control me. The world controls me by making me feel the shame of who I am. and that they can come in with their power and authority and take away the power and value of my life. And all my struggles can be declared by the world as a misfit or a loser. That you didn't do the job right, you're a misfit or a loser. And so we kowtow to the world. We're controlled by the world, but the darkness overcomes us. And when the darkness overcomes us, we feel abandoned, we feel rejected, because we've disconnected from those we love. And the disciples have those same feelings. And they know that they have to bring all these feelings to the cross and ask Jesus to help them detox those feelings. To detox those feelings so they don't become toxic like Cain did and kill his brother. And they're looking at one another, and for some reason they feel this is possible. They feel that they too can take the sour wine of the world and allow God to detox it. They can take the fear of being intimidated by the powers of the world that corrupt you and break you down your confidence. And the world can break you down, and the world can hurt you. But how is my life going to make sense? And they recall that Jesus was aware that he was going to be handed over to his enemies, and he didn't doubt the Father could draw good out of it. And when Judas betrayed him, he got very upset, but he handed it to God. And he believed that God could work through the betrayal of Judas. Do we believe that when we are in the power of evil forces, when we are betrayed by a loved one, can we be faithful? And when he went before Pontius Pilate and the high priest, he believed that God could draw good out of his life. And could they feel the same way? Only if they prayed, only if they gave themselves to God, and only if they overcame these fears, these anxieties, these feelings that the world can break me down and make me so ashamed of myself that I'm going to collapse under the pressure, and they can take away the value and power of my life. And they're beginning to believe that, like Jesus, God can lift them up, and that nobody can intimidate them, and that they can be heroic when it was necessary, and they can sacrifice their lives just like the soldiers going over in the ships. And they had Mary on their side, and they had God's family on their side. And the value of their lives would always be good. And they thought about the word, I thirst. I thirst to become a channel of God's peace, just like Jesus did. And we think of the hymn that we now play in church, make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. What a beautiful hymn. It's the prayer of St. Francis. And St. Francis was a channel of God's peace. And Francis overcame all the ridicule of the world and all the fear of ridicule. And he overcame all the fears that people will think he was a fool, like people thought Jesus was a fool. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. What beautiful words, aren't they? Where there is darkness, how many people live in darkness? Only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. There's a beautiful quote that I just heard. Most men live in desperate fear of their life, and they die without a song in their heart being sung. The disciples were going to sing their song. And I hope you can sing your song, and that you don't die not having sung your song, and giving your all, and living heroically and bravely as God calls us, because only when we live that way do we feel worthy of God's love, and we allow God to love us and lift us up no matter how our heart is aching or breaking, that he's going to lift us up, and we are going to complete the journey. Thank you for listening to us through this fourth segment.